Once I was so hungry that I went to the kitchen in the middle of the night. After I rummaged through the fridge and stood up, a maid dropped the crockery in her hands the moment she saw my face. Ah! Ghost! Help! Immediately my butler appeared, gagged her, and dragged her out. The next day she was fired. I could understand why. It's because she had seen my devil-like face. Hi, I'm Jennifer, 17 years old. I was born into a rich and esteemed family in Maryland. My dad is the state governor, and my mom is a talented politician. Therefore, our family's image is everything to us. Unfortunately, their only daughter, me, is a flawed child. Ever since I was little, I've had a large birthmark on my face. This made me ashamed of myself, and my parents were also extremely hesitant to let me appear in public with them. Since I was small, I've overheard some people talking badly about my birthmark. Even my parents were always asking me to stay at home, and if I wanted to go out, I would be accompanied by a bodyguard. They even went as far as hiring a private teacher to our mansion so I wouldn't have to go to school. Once I carelessly walked into my dad's workroom without knowing that he was having a live interview. When I saw myself on the screen, I panicked and quickly grabbed the nearest thing beside me, which was a trash bin, to cover my head and sat down to hide. On the other end of the line, the interviewee laughed. "Your daughter is so cute." In front of thousands of people watching it live, my dad smiled wryly and replied, "Oh, no, she's our maid." What? Before I could protest, my mom suddenly appeared, put a feather brush in my hand, and then dragged me outside. "Jennifer, be more mindful of whatever you do next time, understood?" It was so ridiculous. Now I had to be careful in my own home. Honestly, I felt hurt, but that was not the only time my existence was denied. Every time we had guests, Mom and Dad would remind me to stay obediently in my room. In particular, once on Thanksgiving Day, they held a party and invited their work partners to attend. Once again, my mom told me not to show up. "Sweetie, please stay in your room until the guests come home." Ugh, how terrible! Just how long would I have to hide like this? Sitting in my room for an hour, I started to feel bored. I decided to open the door a little to see what was going on outside. Suddenly, it pushed back toward me. Someone was trying to enter my room. I tried to close the door, but the other person was stronger, causing me to fall to the floor in pain. A young man walked in, looked at me in bewilderment while I panically covered my face with a nearby hat. "Oh, sorry. I thought this was the bathroom. Oh gosh, what should I say now? I was too embarrassed to look at him. The boy gently took off my hat and discovered that I was the girl in the many pictures that were hanging in my room. Fine. Seemed like there was no point in lying now. This room is mine. I'm the daughter of the state governor." "I see. I'm Larry, the son of the city mayor." Larry reached out and shook my hand while I asked him to keep our encounter a secret. "But why?" I told him about the large birthmark on my face that might ruin my family's image, but to my surprise, he laughed a little, touched my birthmark, and said, "So we have something in common, a secret no one must know. I bet nobody could think that the city mayor's son suffers from a serious OCD." Larry smiled and told me that because of his disorder, sometimes he would adjust his father's tie while he was taking photos with the senior politicians, and sometimes during the interview, he would sit down to scrub the floor. Due to that, he often stayed away from his father to avoid ruining his image. It shocked me. No one had ever touched my face like that, nor telling me something so intimate before. He was also quite handsome to boot. We had a good time talking until his dad told him to go home. After that day, Larry and I became soulmates. We used to talk to each other until 4 a.m. for several days in a row. We even shared our passion for painting. He said he wanted to show me his best works, and of course I eagerly agreed. In order to get out of the house without being detected, I put a bunch of clothes under my blanket to fool everyone into thinking I was sleeping. With Larry waiting for me downstairs, I was putting one foot out of the window when suddenly my dad walked in. "Jennifer, what are you doing? Stop now." Ignoring what he said, I clung to the rope and jumped down. Quickly, I climbed onto Larry's motorcycle. A group of my bodyguards chased after us, but he swiftly cut them off. We drove as fast as we could to his mansion. Larry led me into a secret room displaying a lot of paintings. Suddenly, my dad called. I picked up the phone and heard his torrential scolding. "Jennifer, go home now. Since when did you become so rebellious?" since you called me a maid and kept me imprisoned inside my own room. After saying that, I hung up and turned off the power. All everyone cared about was my family's face, not my feelings. I burst into bitter tears. Seeing that, Larry slowly brought out a paintbrush and a palette. Shh, it's all right, don't cry. Why don't you put your feelings onto the canvas? I took his brush and started drawing. Occasionally, Larry painted a few strokes on my cheeks and giggled. I guessed it was his attempt to cheer me up. I had never felt so comfortable next to someone before. When we finished our paintings, the colors had already run out. Larry gave me a glass of orange juice and headed to the door. Take your time to enjoy the masterpiece you've just created. I'll get us some more color tubes. Having said that, he left. In the meantime, I approached his bookshelf. Coincidentally, while looking, I found a book about OCD. Wait, I panicked when I noticed something unusual. Larry claimed to have OCD, but he played around with the brushes and colors with such ease and mischief. While I was still suspicious, my eyes suddenly blurred and everything went black. Is she awake yet? No? What should we do next, Dad? I opened my eyes. In front of me were Larry and an old man. It was his father, James, the city mayor. I felt my hands and feet tied tightly. Only then did I realize the true face of my new friend. Oh, you're awake, Jennifer? Don't be so scared, it'll be over soon. It turned out that his dad would soon compete with mine in running for the state governor position. He planned this to force his opponent to resign. The phone rang and my dad was on the other end. Where is my daughter? Shut up and listen to me. James said that if my dad wanted to be safe, he must announce his resignation on live television. Fine, I'll do it. No, Dad! Don't do that! But he had already hung up, and shortly after, CNN immediately spread the news that my dad had withdrawn from the next governor election. Unbelievable! He really did it! James started untying me, but the moment I was released, the police siren sounded. Larry angrily tried to hold me back, but I quickly threw him a roundhouse kick and knocked him out on the spot. That's for trying to mess with me and my family. He didn't know that aside from painting, I'm also well-versed in martial arts. The police flooded in and arrested both James and Larry. My parents ran to me and hugged me emotionally. Are you okay, sweetie? Don't be so close to me. They'll know I'm your shameful child. But Dad patted my head and said they had never been ashamed of me. They were only trying to hide my existence out of fear that if our enemies found out about me, they would try to hurt me just like Larry and James did. It turned out that I had misunderstood them all this time. But what about the election? You faked your resignation to trick them, right? I've truly withdrawn from it. You are more important to me than anything else, Jennifer. I was so touched. So Mom and Dad really love me after all. Only then did I realize that they weren't ashamed of my birthmark, but were just trying to protect me all along. After that day, my parents decided to stop being involved in politics and lived a simpler life. At the end of his term, my dad moved us to Paris. I was no longer grounded, but was set free to explore the world.